Hey everyone, welcome to the Better Ideas Podcast. My name's Dakota. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sorry it's been like a week and a half, almost 2 weeks since I put out an episode. I'm trying not to ever let it get past 2 weeks because I've been doing it almost every week for the past couple of months now, and I'm really enjoying it. And I promise you guys I'm not slowing down permanently. It's just been it's been a busy couple of weeks, and I've got a few other projects in the works and just some things going on. I'm going to talk a little bit later about some of those projects just because they're so in the beginning stages right now, but I am happy to announce that I've got a couple musical things going on. Got a band-ish project, and I'm really excited about that, and it's in its very early beginning stages. We actually just got together for the first time the other day as, you know, 4 guys, and just jammed and had some fun, and we're gonna see where that goes. So I'm really excited to be starting something new, and you know, to just keep continuing writing and being creative. And speaking of creative, this conversation is, it was incredible, and it was so candid and unplanned, and I could not be any more pleased with how it turned out because so I had a guest who was supposed to be on today who just wasn't able to make it. No big deal. We'll get around to it later. But so I texted this guy named Cameron DuPratte that we had some mutual friends, and I was just kind of scrambling trying to record an episode today because I took the whole day off and I didn't want to waste it. I wanted to do something productive. So I got a hold of him, and he was able he just happened to be free. It just happened to be his day off too. So he came over and we had a great conversation. We've actually never hung out ever. This was only the second time I've met him in person, which is weird considering we were both in the same music video a couple months back. But yeah, so we get into that story and we just talk about all of his creative endeavors. Cameron DuPratte he's the singer and I guess the only artist in the band or project, brother Spacebear. That's who I saw at the Jackpot the same day that I did that Hunter dumped us, the Piano Stairs and Lakenheath episode. So the last episode is those guys played a show at the Jackpot that night, and they actually played with Cameron from brother Spacebear. So that's kind of how we all got into contact. And I'm just so stoked that we actually got together and pulled this off, and especially super last minute. And I didn't have anything planned, but he's such a cool guy that it was so easy just to talk about whatever. And he's very artsy. We have very similar personalities, so we can talk about pretty much anything. And I look forward to having him on the show again. But in the meantime, I'll get to it. Yeah, I'd like to start off just saying thanks again for showing up last minute.
Yeah, of course.
I try not to go more than like 2 weeks without putting out an episode ever. Yeah. At least since I've started. So the first month I put out one episode, and then every month after that it's grown, and I've been doing them a lot more frequently, and it got to the point where it's been almost every week. Yeah. So I didn't want to go more than it'd be almost 2 weeks without putting out an episode this weekend. So I really appreciate you,
of course,
showing up. And
well, honestly, I've been excited because I remember I met you at the Bottleneck at the Lakenheath and Piano Stairs show.
Yeah, Jackpot.
The Jackpot.
Yeah.
And you told me to do this podcast, and I was like, oh, cool. And you're like, well, if you want to drop in sometime, I'm like, I'd love to. So
yeah.
I always love talking and creative, and
and okay, so I guess our story is a little bit. We've got a little bit of a backstory to leading up to this, because I'm gonna have to start crediting Jordan Redman with like just giving him a credit for every guest on the show so far, or at least several of them. But we have some mutual friends, and we were in a music video. That's sort of together, but we never interacted with each other. So we were
brothers in the music video.
Yeah, we played brothers, but we never met until that Lakenheath and Piano Stairs show. Yeah. So,
and honestly, like, I didn't even recognize you at first. Like, I was like, oh, this guy, and I think, but then Jordan introduced us and was like, yeah, this is your brother, and I was like, wait,
yeah. So that's awesome, but. and Jordan was telling me, like, when we were doing this music video, we were just talking about it, and they showed me your part and all that. And he's like, yeah, if you ever need anybody to talk to on your podcast, he's like, Cameron would be a really good guy. He's one of the most artsy people I know. That's like what everyone has said about you.
Wow.
Is like you're really artsy.
That is, I'll take that as a compliment. What did Jordan? I think Jordan said that night. I think I was standing there when he said that. And he's like, you think he's artsy to a fault? Meaning he's so artsy. He doesn't.
He's like, he can't commit to one thing.
He can't get anything done because I'm trying to do so many different things half the time. Which that's fair.
Yeah. So is that a fair assessment on his part?
Yeah. I'll be honest. Probably.
Yeah.
I'm definitely getting better about it though. I'm starting to narrow down. And there's always other factors that come into whether or not you're producing. Like it's weird. Like sometimes the year are really bad for certain kinds of things. Like I tend to write music in like the spring and the summer, and I paint during the fall and the winter. Or I do like art fall and winter.
Okay. What would you call that, like design? Because you do a lot of like not even just painting, right?
Yeah.
Like print work and things
so,
like that.
Well, I do design, like graphic design as my job. Like that's how I make money. So I do that year round, whether I feel like it or not.
Okay.
But in terms of like, I do fine art as well. That's kind of my big thing is I love painting and I love creating like bodies of art, kind of like weird visual art. And it usually comes down to painting and drawing and a lot of bookmaking. I do lots of handmade books. So
I saw that on your website before you came over. This is so last minute. And I usually don't prepare much, like because I've just noticed that the less I prepare, the more present I have to be. So I actually kind of like not being prepared. But for this one, I was like, I didn't know we were doing this until an hour ago. Yeah. So I was just looking around on like your website and your Instagram because you have your art page on Instagram, and then that's got the link to your website. So I checked that out, and I saw like your print work and your handmade books and some even video work that you directed. So you're all over the place for sure. Renaissance man. So what I guess what started all of this? Like I don't know, because for me, it's like one thing led to another. Yeah. And I'm wondering if it's the same for you. Like, did you start out with just music, or did it go into other things, or vice versa, or what?
Yeah. I mean, if we're being honest, it started like in my childhood. I was homeschooled growing up by my mom and my dad as well. And my dad was he was a college pastor actually at the time. So we did a lot of traveling, a lot of missions trips. So we just kind of had to be home, like, and because of that, like, my mom, like, very quickly learned like Cameron sucks at math and he's good at doing like art things. And so for me, most of my childhood was drawing and sketching and, building worlds and maps and trying to draw comics and shit like that. But I think like really, it sounds really cheesy, but the turn for me was watching the Lord of the Rings movies.
Oh, yeah.
So my dad bought the special editions, and then we'd go on, plane trips to Mexico and stuff like that. And I'd watch all the special features. And like somewhere in there in my like 8-year-old brain, like actually probably like 6-year-old brain, like something clicked. It was like, wait, you can do this to make money. Like you could build armor for money. You can draw a spider. And like, from that moment on, I was like, this is all I want.
So you just like made that connection. Like, wait, somebody had to make all of this.
Yeah. And
to film this movie.
Exactly. And kind of from that point on, then, it really, that became my thing was I just did art. And from there it developed like, we used to live in Lincoln, Nebraska, and then my dad took a pastoral job here in Kansas. And I
thought you were, didn't your website say South Dakota?
I was born in North Dakota.
North Dakota.
We were there for probably a year.
Okay.
I don't remember it at all. But
Okay, and then Nebraska for
and then
a while.
Nebraska.
Okay.
And then Kansas, Lawrence, Kansas, and the culture shift from like Lincoln. Do you know Lincoln, Nebraska?
Yeah, actually, I went to school in Papillion
Really?
for for
Okay.
a semester. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a suburb of Omaha.
Gotcha.
So,
Oh, Omaha.
actually, I went to a concert in at the Waiting Room.
Okay.
I think is that Lincoln? Yeah.
It's one of the two.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm familiar kind of with that area.
Yeah.
A little bit. Cornfields.
A lot of
fields
cornfields
and things like that.
A lot of cornfields.
Yeah.
But it's a very different world. I don't know if you felt this, but I felt like I moved right around the age of 10, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And like I could feel like the difference from like Lawrence to from like Lincoln, Nebraska to Lawrence, Kansas. And to me, like being homeschooled, like honestly, Lawrence felt harsh when I first moved here. Like now I don't think that. I love Lawrence. Lawrence is like my hometown, and it's developed me into a creative, but like especially like in the more like white suburban like Christian conservative scene, like which is what I grew up in. Like it's a little harsher. It's a little like more intellectual and cold and like which is sad because Lawrence is such an open community. And like that's not like to put down people like at all, because I think there's really good people in those communities, in the Christian and the more suburban communities for sure. I think it's just harder if you're an artist to get understood.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've always thought was super weird about Lawrence, actually, is just that it's right in the middle of like what you're saying, like that Christian conservative sort of. It's the Midwest still.
Yeah.
It is the Bible Belt or whatever, but then you have this like super edgy, like liberal
side
town right in the middle of all of this, you know, and it's mayhem, because I'm from Tonganoxie.
Oh, okay.
So it's only 12 miles away, but it's a completely different thing.
It's totally different.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So yeah, I get the small town sentiment for sure.
Yeah. And I think like that shift from like, like homeschooling is normal and like being a Christian is normal, or like, kind of being a Christian is normal, to like Lawrence, where there's a lot of polarization happening. And it's good. There's a lot of intellectual discussion. Like that really kind of shoved me into this weird place where I was like, I had a hard time making friends. I developed a lot of anxiety, and like I ended up.
How old were you at this time when you moved to Lawrence?
10.
10.
I was just about to turn 10. And like from that, at least in my early years, art became kind of a haven for me to like. I picked up guitar when I moved to Lawrence, and I've been playing piano in Nebraska for years, just like learning, taking lessons, and I kept up with that, and that's kind of where everything collided, where it was like at first it was like, oh, I want to make movies, and then it was like art. Like I began reading books differently. I began, looking at, and like part of it is I started to go to a private school here in Lawrence, and I had some amazing literature teachers who just totally shifted my ideas about what writing is and how to write. And that's where I got into song. That was the origins of songwriting for me, was like, I love music, and then I learned about poetry, and then from there it kind of developed into this. And what I love is like I had teachers. Sorry, I'm really rambling right now.
Oh no, you're good, man.
But there's like this big shift for me of like, it wasn't just a safe haven for me of like, oh, I need to like just escape into my art. It became like a tool for me to like help explain myself, or to explain differences in people. Or it became a way for me to like. It became a craft for me to hone. It wasn't just like, oh, this is just my expression. It was like, no, there's like, I find safety in this and I'm good at it, but I need to practice it. I need to get better. And I can't just do it because it makes me feel good. It became kind of this like, I need to get better at everything, at all the artistic things. And, but yeah. So that's kind of my journey. There wasn't like an origin point other than just like, I liked doing it.
Yeah, and it's just kind of shifted and evolved over time.
Exactly.
But, yeah, and it's kind of funny because I'm like, I'm sitting here analyzing what you're saying is like you're kind of doing it right now, where I can see you trying to figure out like what is the best way to romanticize this.
Yeah.
When I ask you about your past,
Yeah.
which I think is what we all do. You know,
yeah.
that's what we. When you're telling a story, it's a story.
Yeah.
You know, we can't recollect it perfectly, but you have to sit there and think like, what was it that made me an artist, or you know, like I like that concept, and I think that's something that I don't know. You can tell when you talk to certain people, like especially with creatives, because they want to lay it out like this is how it happened. They want to like romanticize life, and they use that as a way to relate to people. And I like it because for me, I think that art is kind of like it's a whole alternative form of communication.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I don't know. I guess that's just really cool that you found that at a young age as like a haven. Because for me, I didn't. I think that came a little bit later. You know, I think it was that, but I never really knew it was that for the longest time. I just thought like, I just want to make music that's like the music that I like.
Yeah.
Not I want to learn how to relate to the world with this thing that I made.
Yeah.
Like, so that's cool that you started figuring that out at a pretty young age.
And I think for me, the big shift was there was this guy named Steve Garber. He's an intellectual from kind of Christian thinker from Washington, D.C. He's the uncle of my best friend, Simon Stiegel, who's a brilliant musician.
Okay.
He's just, he's amazing. And also is like one of those like stubborn people who's like a perfectionist and like probably will never actually do music in his life, like professionally, because he's like can't stand the music industry or anything about it. So he just is gonna like be this amazing guitarist composer. But his uncle is a cultural like thinker. He thinks about it, and he came and spoke for something. But like one phrase that like stuck with me was like, how do you take kind of his thing is like, how do you take the truest truths there are and speak them in a way that they can be understood? And kind of out of that, he said like, that is what art is about. It's about taking things and not just making an argument for this is the right way, but rather kind of weaving, no, this is what's true about the world, and I'm going to pose it to you in a way you can understand it. And that for me, outside of religion entirely, like just how do you, I think art's so powerful because it's an emotional form of communication, you know?
Yeah. I feel like it's really synonymous with storytelling when you put it that way. Just and to bring religion back into it, I guess, like that's kind of how I've been seeing things. I have a feeling we have a very similar religious background too.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people in the Midwest do, you know, where we grew up in it and or we discovered it on our own, but then eventually realized that a lot of the scaffolding that we used is something we don't really recognize or see fit to carry on for the rest of our life, but we still take those objective truths from it, you know, and those things that we hold tight or that still mean something. But for me, like whenever I hear things of the past, like what like you were talking about, like a way to simplify something that is true so that the whole world can see it and recognize it and relate to it. It's almost like that's what pop is. Or to me, it's like that's what all of these messianic figures have done all throughout history is take truth and package it in such a way that we can actually understand it. And to me, that is the most purest form of art. That's the most artistic thing that's ever been done. Saying, love your enemy. You know, like, because we all relate to that. We all have things that we would see as an enemy, but it's our job not to, you know, like, so I don't know. I think that's a really cool concept. Those objective, I don't know. Do you believe in objective truth? Do you think that's...
Ooh, this is fascinating.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I've been thinking about a lot of stuff like that lately. Like philosophically, is that what art is. Like, is art kind of God or truth or whatever that force is that its way of presenting itself to us, you know, like the muse, I guess some people would call it.
And I think for me, like, I'm trying to think, because like I definitely still hold to a lot of Christianity in some sense. I would consider myself like a Christian mystic. If you've read like A.W. Tozer or Madeleine Engel, Annie Dillard, a lot of these kind of thinkers that, I guess for me, in terms of objective truth, I was just talking to my girlfriend about this because we were discussing arguments and how do you argue. And for me, I definitely do believe that there is objective truth. I just question how helpful it is to think in terms of objective truth.
Okay. Expand.
Yeah. I gotta think about this.
I definitely can see how that makes perfect sense if you are misinterpreting objective truth. Like, to try to think of everything in, is this truth or is it not? I could see how that could be sort of a stumbling block. Yeah. Just in the sense that you may not know what it is. Yeah. Because anything that can be explained is probably not God, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think in terms of, oh man, this is such a tricky thing. I guess what I mean by that is, it's not to say that we don't talk about right or wrong, because I think there's definitely things we can know, you know, and like there's a real innate sense of where I think it's like humans ought to treat each other well. You know, the old phrase, love thy neighbor, like, the reason that resonates is so much is because I think it is true, you know, and I think, and I guess what I mean by thinking in terms of objective truth might not be helpful. What do I mean by that? Sorry, man. I think what I mean ultimately is the trap. Ooh,
you're good.
Sorry about that.
It's cheap, Mike. It's all good.
I guess what I'm by objective truth being not always the best framework to think from is, maybe that's coming from my personal experience, but a lot of people I know, they try to frame everything. And I think for me, for a long time, I tried to frame everything from, okay, what is the objective? What is the top down, where you think of top down? I got to figure out what's right, and that's what I'm always going for. And I think if you think like that, what you're going to do is you're going to build a box of, this is the right stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of that might be good. And it might actually be very good for you. But if you try to apply that same box to the person next to you who lives a different life, you're going to get gaps. There's going to be pieces that are missing that don't fit, because you don't have, as much as you are reaching for ultimate truth, you don't have an ultimate perspective.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. And dude, I totally empathize with that so much, just because I feel like I actually went through that. Like, personally, at least in my faith or my walk or my art, even with everything to me is that, like what you're talking about, this box where I think that's what the ego is. Yeah. Is that scaffolding that you build for yourself, you know, and so you're saying that it may not be helpful, or maybe it is just to a certain extent, to think of objective truth. Like, for me, when I was 12, I discovered faith or God or this idea, at least. And then up until the point that I was maybe like 19, 20, 21, maybe even, I had that box that I built for myself. Yeah. You know, of like, this is what's right and wrong. This is who I am. This is everything that I know. And then, but for some reason, and I think this is just a recurring thing, and I don't even know if it happens more than once. I think that it could be partially like how you explain a midlife crisis. Yeah. Is you look at this, and not that I'm even close to midlife, but maybe an early life crisis is what I was going through. But I got to this point in life where I looked at that box and I didn't recognize it.
Yeah.
And I was like, a lot of that stuff, like, who am I? Who is this? What is all this? Why do I believe that? Why did I hold on to that? Better. And then it takes it a step further. And then you say, where's my faith?
Yeah.
Because if I need that scaffolding, if I need to cling to these ideas as facts, like I used to be that kid who like watched every Kent Hovind video ever, and I could explain how the Bible was factually correct in every circumstance. And, you know, I was that guy like that would just, I clinged. I don't know how you say that. I clinged to faith or clinged to that idea. And it took me a long time to figure out that clinging was actually a lack of faith. Yeah. And that really, like, in letting go of those ideas, I could see the real artistic side of it. Yeah. Because I didn't see it as art. I saw it as facts. Yeah. And I put spirituality and art and God, all of these things in a box in my mind where this is how it needs to be. Yeah. And then once that changed, it just kind of like got rid of my whole foundation. Yeah. But then it allowed the real beauty, I think, of and the more artistic side of spirituality to kind of make its way back into my life. Yeah. Like, hey, this is not the same thing. This is not the same thing you believed your whole life. Yeah. But essentially it is the same. Yeah. It just means something completely different than it used to.
It becomes richer in it once you start to learn. Yeah. I really resonate with that sense of I like how you said, you know, like you kind of let go of this thing you think is faith and you realize it's actually impeding your faith because you don't have faith in God, you have faith in the idea of God and these ideas and I think for me, I'm always careful to say, like, let's not get rid of, because the moment you start talking about, is there objective truth? People are like, well, then how do you do it? And you're like, let's be rational here. Like,
you can get into some really nihilistic territory.
Yeah, and like, I think we can, you can get really crazy existentialist and start talking, you know, people. And that's what I heard a lot is people would start pulling, well, then how can you say there's no objective truth? Because words and how even you're saying doesn't make, and you're just like, that's not the point. Like,
how could that be a true statement?
Yeah,
that's a paradox.
Just like, it's you're missing the point. It's a tool, you know. In a sense, this idea of postmodernism or even of objective truth, it's a tool we use to help us interact with the world around us, I think. And a tool is good for a purpose, you know. Interacting with things as an objective truth, that's helpful for certain things. To look at, like, human dignity, absolutely, you know. Treatment of the earth, absolutely. Even things like, I think, religion, I think we can look at and be like, all right, like, we need to be always careful, but, like, objectively, I'm like, I think there is God. Like, I sense it, I feel it, it makes the most sense for me. But there's always this sense of where I've seen so many people go down the road of their goal in life becomes asserting objective truth. And if objective truth is their end goal, then anything else has to just be destroyed in the way of getting to that. And that means convincing other people. In communication with other people, every communication becomes, I need you to agree with my objective truth, you know?
See, but then to me, that is because when I see somebody in that state, nowadays, because I was there,
and I
for
was too.
a really long time, man. I've straight up said things that I would say were spirit led at the time, probably, that I would want to punch myself in the face for now. Like,
absolutely, I'm the same way.
So I don't know. It just seems to me like when I see that person, I feel empathy. In their lack of faith. Because they want you to fit your idea of God into their box that is their idea of God. And it's almost an insecurity thing. It's like they're projecting that lack of faith shows itself when they get personally offended by you not believing the same way that they do. Because then that means that maybe what they believe isn't objective truth.
Yeah.
Or isn't even true at all for that matter.
Yeah.
And then that is a really scary thought for those people.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I don't know if you're comfortable talking more about that, but like, how does your faith relate to your art in your life?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
My faith and my art are definitely entirely intertwined. Because let me think about this for a second.
Oh, you're good, man.
Where do you even? Because for me, so much of my life has been surrounded by faith. I grew up in the church, raised by a pastor, and a great relationship with my dad, and surrounded simultaneously by really good thinking, sincere Christians who really, their goal was to love the world, like Christ did, and also surrounded by really crappy Christians, and they're kind of one and the same, and and it gave me such an oddly nuanced view, to where you just have a sense of empathy for most anyone, where you're just like, like you look at like some drug addict and you're like, I can empathize with you, and you look at some like whacked out Trump supporter and you're like, I can also empathize with you. Like, what is this?
Yeah. Because you grew up around all kinds of
exactly.
different.
But yeah, I guess in terms of, because of that was my upbringing, so much of my questions in life, so many of them, and ultimately art is, I think of as asking a question. It's opening a dialogue. It's trying to, the goal of an artist is not just to be like, here's my presentation, let me present you my idea. It's to engage you. It's to make the audience ask questions. It's to make, in a sense, put the audience or the viewers in a state of vulnerability, of feeling like they're, and that's, I think, especially modern art. And I think that's where we get, this is the total side tangent, but I think that's where we get a lot of people who are confused by art or look at art today in museums and they say, I don't get this. This is stupid. It's because it's designed to make you feel uncomfortable and to make you say, I don't get it. And you're supposed to move on from there. You're supposed to keep pushing forward.
I think there's also something to be said. Oh, I just hit the mic too. Hope that wasn't loud. Sorry, listeners. But I think there's something to be said about art that is harder to process. Yeah. And I've been learning a lot about this just from getting more involved in the hardcore scene lately. Yeah. Just like, with Earthgroans and all that, like I've been getting like pretty close to a couple different artists and bands that are into music that I've never really been super into. Yeah. But I feel like I get something out of forcing myself to process this chaos that is hardcore music or beatdown or whatever this is, or it's like the Dadaism of music almost. Maybe not all hardcore, but just that idea that there's some art that is not appealing at first glance, and I think that's the difference between like pop art, like what is pop. And like what is normal and mainstream is that thing that is easily digestible and that everyone can broadly look at and enjoy or hear and enjoy. But then I think there's something to be said about people who can get into the art that most people don't like. Yeah. Because it means that they're processing it. They're taking time. They're giving that artist the amount of time that they want. Like, it's weird, and I wonder if that associates with like IQ or people's intellect or spirituality in some way. I really don't know, but I like that idea that like some art is not appealing. Yeah, at first, definitely.
I think it's so funny you bring up Earthgroans because I had no clue what kind of music Earthgroans made when. Oh gosh!
Oh, you were in their newest video, Estate, right?
Yeah, when I was in their music video, and this is so embarrassing. Who's the videographer?
Zach.
Oh my! I was thinking Alex, and I was like, I know this guy. I'm his friend. Sorry, Zach. Oh my gosh! If you're listening to this, I know who you are.
He'll be all right. He gets plenty of recognition on this podcast.
Yeah. But Zach, I had no clue what kind of music, and if Zach's listening to this, he's gonna laugh. But like, I just knew Earth Groans was like, a band, and I was thinking like Sweet Ascent kind of.
Yeah,
hard.
probably some type of rock.
And I was just like, cool. And like, I remember Zach sat me down. It was like probably 11:30 in the morning when we started shooting, and he was like, all right, so here, I don't know if you've listened to the song yet, but like, this is the song we want to do the music video for. And he's like, I'm gonna pull up the lyrics because they might be kind of hard to understand. And and he kicks on The Estate, and I'm just like, holy shit, like what's going on? Whenever, even when like I don't listen to metal, I don't like it, but I remember that experience of realizing like I'm in this music video and then reading the lyrics and being like, oh, this is like thoughtful, like this is cool, and then having Zach explain, he's like, okay, so here's what we're doing, and then realizing like, because the music video is about that like deterioration of and feeling like you're trapped, I remember him explaining that, and I'm like, I deal with clinical anxiety, and like I know, and like that's like that last scene in the shower is such a wild scene for me because like I'm doing this for a metal band that like this is not my genre at all, but like I'm having this really wild experience of acting out something I've actually been through like physically, for them, and like sharing this with them, and it was a very deep moment. And just I think that's the power of art is, and I think that's why art has to be difficult, is because you need people to take that step. Because if it's too easy, then I think this is a term, it sounds a little weird, but it becomes emotionally masturbatory. Like if it's just about the emotions and how you feel, and like, then it just becomes like this wallowing sense. But if it's difficult,
then it's more like self-interested and not interested in the art itself. It's more like art that is just to please you. And that's what just bums me out so much about a lot of music today. Is that like I would never make a blanket statement and say like I hate country music. But I will say that I'm not a fan at all of like pop country. Of this formulaic chord progression that is used in, it's a trend. And it's not even just pop country. Every genre has that niche of like, this is what's the most popular, this is what's selling the most. And a lot of artists are gonna try, once they hear that formula, they're gonna try to mimic it. And I am very interested in what that is specifically, like that thing. That, especially with pop music, I listen to Switched on Pop a lot lately, and they always talk about like, all right, hey, every song in the top 40 right now, there's 20 of them that have this drum beat. And you're like, why is everybody in the mood for this drum beat this month?
It's super weird.
And then it changes and it evolves over time.
That's so weird.
I'm so confused by that because I want to hate it, but then I want to also figure out how to recreate it to make people like my music or my art. So it's like, where do you find that line between artistic value and like making something that you hope people will like? Like, where is that for you, at least?
Oh, that's actually, because I think for me, it's a really good question, and it fits really well in with art and my music. Because for me, I see them like as fulfilling two sides of a coin. Like for me, my art, when it comes to my like visual art, fine art side, like that for me, that is purely artistic. Like I do not care if people like it, big quotes around like, in the sense of like they look at it and they're like, oh, I get this. This is cool. Like I want people to interact with it. I want it not to just be obtuse, but, and that, I think that's, I don't know where I was going in terms of my artistic side, but I think it definitely is. I design it to be very spiritual, and it's very meditative. I don't know if you got to see my books. I have a bunch of photos that I haven't yet updated my website. I need to update it. But like I did a collaborative project with a photographer and my cinematographer whenever I'm shooting. Amazing photographer named David Dunsmore from Wichita.
Cool.
He's just stunning and just a beautiful guy. Just his life is wonderful. He's got a wife and this kid, and he's just the goofiest guy, but also the most sincerely artistic like thinker. He's got the weird polar side where he's like, I'm just this boy from Kansas who also is an amazing artist who like does all of these crazy things, but like
that's cool.
I laugh at dumb jokes and listen to weird music, and you're like, all right.
Sounds like a cool guy.
He's
for sure.
awesome.
So he's the photographer.
Yeah.
That you okay? And is he the one who you have some of his work on your website already?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I saw like the findings.
The Findings Project.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I looked through some of that.
So that was 3 months. That was actually like a 9-month process for me, because I spent 6 months starting, hating what I was doing, restarting, throwing away everything, restarting from the beginning. And eventually it was due at the end of the summer. And I got in touch with him and I was like, I need your help. If I work with you, I can't throw it away.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. You got to have somebody hold you accountable.
And that for me was like, that was scary because we used, like I actually like worked, sounds weird, but I worked nude in that. Like I was putting my body out there, which is really weird for me. Kind of fun, but really kind of weird and liberating. But like for me, like that whole thing is very obtuse. Like we had this set up in a gallery where there's like a table with like low lighting, and you like look through these 4 books that are like sitting there. And then there's this giant like bedsheet square thing that's like glowing in the middle of the room, and there's like things you can kind of see through it. And then there's just like photos with like chicken scratched writings on the wall all around it. And like the front like window is blocked off by this like black sheet with a tear.
Where was this at?
This was at KU.
Okay.
So
like you set it all up.
We set it all up. Yeah.
That's cool.
In a gallery space over there. It was like my senior project, and like it's weird. Like it was a weird show, but it was fun. And it was very like, for me, that was like a kind of a spiritual thing for me to like get to. A lot of it had to do with the past and memories and dealing with like your past trauma, dealing with what do you do with growing up. That was kind of that was our thing. We actually sat down and we wrote out for both of us key moments of growing up, and we developed those into the books actually. And we developed 5 photo shoots based around those.
Very cool.
And that was, and then from there, recently I've been working more alone, painting wise, with like the idea of a vessel. Just the word vessel has been my thing. Vessel and skin are probably the 2.
Okay.
Do you listen to Julian Baker at all?
I don't. Who?
Julian Baker.
Julian Baker.
Absolutely need to listen to her.
Is it a podcast?
She's a musician.
Oh, okay.
From Tennessee singer-songwriter.
Okay.
Just heartbreakingly sad, beautiful music.
I'm all for the melancholy stuff, man.
She is. Oh, you will love her then. Just some of the most honest songwriting. But she has this song called Vessel, which is about, you know, like the verse in your vessel's made for, like some vessels are like in, I think it's somewhere in probably Romans or Corinthians, Paul's talking about.
Yeah.
Vessels made for like holy use and unholy use. And I've kind of taken that kind of Christian idea of like be a vessel for good, and I'm like trying to distort it. And like just thinking about what does it mean? Like our bodies are vessels. Like,
yeah.
words are vessels, and just like running with this. And so I've been painting really naturalistic with like really natural materials, using resins, wax, beeswax, using actually like frankincense. I'll melt down like frankincense, and then doing these like sculptures out of like copper, like little bowls out of copper, nets, stones that are hollow. And so I've been kind of doing that with this goal of like, that's, you know, of like exploring this idea of what does it mean to be a human if we're vessels, like if we hold something more, if we have bigger potential, you know?
Yeah. So, and I'm not asking you at all to like try and nail down spirituality or anything like that, but it sounds to me like you kind of fall under this belief that we are we're all a part of God in some way. Like we're all we are a vessel in which God experiences the world through, or
I wouldn't quite put it like that.
Okay.
I'm not quite that pantheistic.
Okay.
I like that idea. I'm not gonna lie. I think that's a beautiful idea. But I don't think that. However, I do believe that God is at work through us. And I think I don't quite know what to do with it. But I do believe he's made each of us unique. I don't think we're just a part of some big conglomerate. But I do think we're part of a bigger story.
Yeah. And so when you say vessel, you just mean
I guess
allowing that creativity or
Yeah.
whatever that thing is to flow through you.
I guess I
and
mean-
to sort of get out of the way of it. Almost.
kind of, yeah. But I also mean like vessel, focusing on the vessel, celebrating. I think I've been celebrating the body.
Okay.
And it's not as much just like, oh, this thing that you just hold, but rather like, no, what does it mean? Because I do believe we have souls of some kind. We are maybe not different than animals. I don't think I'd go that far, but we got something in us.
I would say we're a little different.
Yeah, we're a little different. Yeah.
Yeah, we got something.
We got something. I don't know if all animals have it. I think some might.
Yeah.
There's definitely some certain. We have a self-awareness though, and I kind of refuse to chalk it up just to science or just to origin of the species, or to kind of our instincts, because we do a lot of dumb things that don't make us necessarily the top dogs. That's a different topic. But I guess so much of my life has been kind of a fear of my body, a fear of what I'm capable of, fear of my own,
Sin.
Sin. Sin, this idea of flesh. And I've been trying to look at like, how do we see the body as broken? How can we celebrate this physical thing? And less.
That reminds me of.
Yeah.
Do you ever listen to the band The Maine?
No, but I've heard of them.
If you're not a middle school scene girl, then it may
Okay.
be unlikely. I don't know. They're good.
I've heard a couple
dig their
songs by
stuff.
them. Jordan loves them, I think.
Yes, he's actually one of the people that turned me on to him initially. They have this song called "Am I Pretty?" and the bridge is there's beauty and grace in the flaws of your face.
Yeah,
and I really like that.
Yeah.
That idea of. I think that's kind of what you were touching on.
Yeah.
Is we are these earthly vessel things. We are humans.
Yeah.
And so much of what we've been taught, especially growing up Christian, is that like our bodies are evil or sinful and broken, and so I think that's caused a lot of like sort of subconscious or maybe just beneath the surface kind of stress or trauma almost even.
Yeah.
Like especially with females, I would say,
Oh.
in current culture. But, even a lot with men too, like especially in the church, like men are not really appreciated for being men or manly or masculine or things like that. So yeah, I like that idea of appreciating humanity for what it is, and each individual as unique as they may be, for like there's grace in those flaws, those things that you were taught to hate about yourself is actually kind of what makes you who you are, and like makes you unique. So I like that idea a lot, for sure. So,
and I guess it's even coming to terms with God about it for me, in terms of just like looking at how you've lived and how you were raised or what traumas you have physically, because I deal with a lot of anxiety and depression, which really sucks. And I've spent a lot of my life thinking, man, why am I this way? And Julian Baker is like my muse for writing, for a lot of art that I do. And like for me, that big thing, one of her lines from her new album that just came out was it's like something along the lines of like, I want to be an electrician. If I could be anything I'd want, I'd be an electrician. I'd climb inside my head and fix the faulty wires that are there. And like, and then she kind of goes into this dialogue of like, why, like, am I broken? And like looking at not just, because I think it is, there's kind of that sense of like, there's beauty and there's grace in flaws. But flaws are still painful. And how do you live with them? And
yeah. And see, I think you touched on this earlier. I'm going to try to bring it full circle if I can, but if I don't lose my trail of thought. But I've been seeing everything as like sort of this both and, like this sort of yin and yang, push pull. I'm beginning to believe that thing, I don't even know what it is that I've been thinking about, is objective truth. Yeah. I've also been studying the Enneagram a lot lately, so that helps, and it's an interesting endeavor that I'll probably do an episode on eventually. But I've been seeing everything as sort of this both and thing, you know, and like you were talking about pain and trauma and the bad things, you know, shitty things happen to everybody. The struggle is real, you know, trauma, suffering. I don't know if there's anybody that doesn't go through it. Yeah. And so it seems to me, it's like if you look at the model and you try the same thing, insanity is trying the same thing a million different times and expecting a different result or whatever. And I think that that's kind of like what we do as people, is we do the same thing over and over again by trying to avoid pain. We always like try to push it off and separate it from ourselves. Like you with depression. If you think like, this is not me, this is something that I'm dealing with, this is something that's separate from me, and you don't see it as a gift, then it won't be. Because it seems to me like the moment that you let go of this idea of separation, then, and sort of just accept things for what they are and try to be the best version of yourself while at the same time accepting the pain and the trauma and the suffering, then it seems like at that point the bad things become good things, and they become your teacher at that point. Like for me, I'm learning a lot about myself just from this whole Enneagram thing. I learned that, well, I guess it gives me just kind of the words to relate to myself that I didn't have before. And it's like a way of showing you that you're in a box of your own personality, your ego. And it just shows you that box, sort of holds up a mirror and says, hey, look, this is who you are. And you have the option not to be that, because you're something so much greater than that, really. We all are. But I think that when you're able to sort of step outside of yourself or your ego or your personality or your flesh or whatever, that your vessel, when you can step outside of it and look at it objectively, then those bad things are so much more appreciated. Because you recognize that the good things couldn't exist without them. You know, like you wouldn't be you without depression and anxiety, because it drives so many of the creative things that you do. So if you got rid of it, you'd be boring as shit. Like, I'm like, I don't know that for sure, but it just seems like to me, most of my favorite people have been through some of the worst stuff. And it's like, it almost scares me. Like, what would somebody be like without trauma, without suffering, without depression? What would we be? Would we be angels? Would we be just super boring? Would we, like, who knows? But
that's
I don't know.
Interesting thought.
Yeah. I'm glad you think so. I've been, I don't know. The Enneagram has definitely been a tool that that I think Christians should adopt again. We did in the very beginning, but they just kind of forgot about it when the Sufis hit it for 1,000 years. But yeah, man, I don't know. I like that idea, and I like that idea of vessel, but I also think it's important to recognize that vessels have to be flawed. You know?
Well, all vessels have to have an opening. They have to be open on some side, you know?
It's like that verse, when I'm weak, I'm strong. You know, it's kind of, I think that's what weakness is like, is when you humble yourself and force yourself to be weak, it means that you give up, you surrender to depression or anxiety or whatever it is, and you just say, okay, this is a part of me.
Yeah.
This is who I am. How can I be the best me with this thing?
Yeah.
You know, how can I use this? Like, I think, because that's like this idea of ego, which Paul talks a lot about. In fact, a lot of the times when he uses the word I, like, I have become dead to the flesh.
Yeah.
He's using that root word ego.
Yeah.
You know, so he's saying that my ego is dead.
Yeah.
I no longer have a me. There is no me. There is only Christ who lives through me.
Yeah.
So he is that vessel. And so, meaning, like, he can step outside of himself and recognize the divine.
Yeah.
But if you're only living in your personality or in that vessel, if you can't step outside of it, then it seems like you're gonna let the world control you and influence you, because you get your identity wrapped up in the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's like what a lot of this identity politics is that we see now, is that people don't recognize that they are not them. You're not just Cameron.
Yeah.
You're so much more than that.
Yeah.
But if you get caught up in just being Cameron all the time and just fitting that role, then yeah, you're going to take things personally whenever people say bad things about you or whenever they hurt you, and you're going to have enemies.
Yeah.
But it seems like letting go of that idea of you makes it so you're untouchable.
Yeah.
That's, to me, it's like, is that what it means to be dead to the flesh or dead to that vessel?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's an interesting idea. It's not something I've thought a lot about. I'll have to think more about it then.
Cool. I'm glad I could introduce a new perspective a little bit or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm super into useless information, you know?
I wouldn't call that useless. You're not telling me Star Wars facts here. So
You just offended a lot of people right now.
no offense to Star Wars. I have my tickets to the premiere, so
Okay.
I love my Star Wars.
Oh, man. Okay, well, let's talk about, like, I don't know how long we've been going because Pro Tools doesn't really tell me the time. It's kind of weird in that sense. So let's talk about your art, like specifically your each individual project, and like just where everyone can reach you. And, and all that type of stuff. So you have your website, CameronDuPratte.com.
Yep.
Right. Brother Spacebear.
Yes.
Is your musical project.
Yes.
We didn't even really talk about that much. How did that get started?
So I started writing music probably 2 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Like officially, like writing. No, 3 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago.
Okay.
And really, like for me, music, like my dream would be to be a producer of any kind. I'm actually really big into hip hop. I love building beats.
That's cool.
I don't have any of them out yet because I'm still learning. If any rappers want to hit me up,
okay.
I've got an Instagram, Cameron_DuPratte, and just be like, yo, I want a beat. And I'll be like, here's a beat, do something with it. I don't care.
Here is a beat. Have all the beats.
And so, but for me, music is so much more just, it's a release. And, but Brother Spacebear came about because I just started writing and I was like, all right. And then I kept writing and doing shows with friends, and, it's kind of turned into this alter ego side project. And currently working on my first album. I've been working on it for like a year now because I'm self-recording.
Okay.
And I'm almost done. You'll be able to get that on SoundCloud, on probably all the sites, all the Spotify's. Probably not on Tidal. Sorry if you're on Tidal.
Maybe Bandcamp.
Probably Bandcamp. Yeah. So
yeah. So are you just gonna release it through TuneCore or something like that? Probably.
Like
okay.
that.
So it'll be everywhere most likely when it comes out.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
That and but yeah, that is the music project right now, and it's like so when I play live, it's just me and my guitar because I don't have time to have a band. Like I just don't have the time or the energy to build a band right now.
Yeah.
But album is full band. It's just
Okay. So did you record all the instruments, or are you?
no. I've recorded guitar, piano, electric guitar, all of that, vocals.
Mm-hmm.
But then I've had a number of musicians. I don't know if any of you know my buddy Simon Stiegel, John Robbs. Do you know him? He's a
I don't know. I'm
Baldwin
not sure.
Baldwin recording and drum lesson guy. But
Oh,
he's
okay.
done drums
Cool.
for me, along with Adam Creston. He's on SoundCloud. I don't know what his name is. He's drummed for me. I've had Kehealani from Lawrence.
I saw her. She's a YouTuber.
Yes,
right?
yeah, YouTuber. She does vocals. I'm working with her on her next EP. Actually,
Very cool.
I'm co-writing a lot of the songs, and
Mm-hmm.
trying to think of who else. Isaiah Martin's helped me out with a lot of guitar tech stuff. He's from Betrayed by Fiction.
Okay. Yeah.
You might
I'm
have
pretty sure I've seen them live before. They're like a metal band from
Yeah.
KC, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
they
used
play
to-
with Zion and all them.
I used to play with them actually back in the day. So
Oh, okay.
which is
Cool.
super fun.
Small world.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what's coming out next. So
Cool, man. Well, is there anything else you want to plug or get
trying
into?
to think.
You have so many endeavors.
Yeah, I'm. I always am interested in conversations, and I guess I have an Instagram account, as I've said, so you can follow me, and hit me up if you see something that seems interesting to you. This is just to the people out there. Hello.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, at this point, really, I'm kind of living my life and just trying to live it well, and gonna be doing my music stuff. So
So keep an eye out for that.
keep an eye out for that. That'll be out. Maybe a music video. We'll
Cool.
see if I have the time, energy, and budget for that.
I'm sure you can talk Zach into cutting you a deal.
Yeah, Zach or my buddy David Dunsmore.
Cool. Yeah.
because he has access to like a whole grip truck and a red. So I'm like,
Dang. Very cool.
so. But yeah,
Awesome. Well, thanks for doing
Dude.
this, man. I don't know what the time is, but
Yeah.
I'm going to put this out as soon as possible. so
dude, thank
it'll be
you
cool.
so much.
Yeah,
I've had a
dude.
blast.
Yeah.
This is just a great conversation.
Yeah,
today.
dude,
Just
I totally agree.
fascinating new thoughts. So,
Well, we'll have to do it again for sure. Like a
course.
couple months from now.
Yeah.
We'll check in.
yeah.
So, cool, man.
Awesome, man.
I'm going to wrap it up now. So there was my last minute conversation with Cameron DuPratte. Cameron, thank you so much for showing up and making this episode awesome, because it literally was not going to happen without you. So I really, really appreciate it. And for the listeners out there, if you guys want to contribute in any way, then you can go to patreon.com/betterideas, and that's where you can contribute monetarily, and that would probably be one of the better ways to do that. And that's how I'm going to maybe someday actually make a little bit of money, maybe make a living as a creative someday. That'd be pretty cool, right? But yeah, the other ways, just leave a review on iTunes or Facebook, share it, tell a friend. The number one way that anybody can contribute to this show is just to keep listening. So you guys are already doing a great job at that, especially if you're hearing my voice right now. You made it to the end of an episode, so congratulations. They're kind of long episodes. But yeah, until then, I hope you guys have a good week.